All right. Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Mustang Robotics Symposium series. I'm your director, Jacob Ursua, and behind the scenes we also have producers Jai Liang and Sophia Pantoja. Our program greatly appreciates each and every one of you for coming to the show tonight. In fact, we would like to graciously invite you to type in chat and let us know who you are. Please tell us your name, school, organization, anything, and we would gladly shout you out in subsequent episodes. And if you have any questions for the guests throughout the stream, please feel free to put those in the chat as well. But anyways, please welcome the host of the Mustang Robotics Symposium series, Mr. Chad Pearson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Mustang Robotics Alumni Symposium series that's taking place out of San Diego area, Chula Vista, California. We're here during a pandemic, COVID-19 affected school year in which, at least in our area, VEX Robotics does not get to have the hands-on experience we traditionally have. And so we took that extra time and energy in the club, and we are producing a series of episodes of bringing back some of our past alumni and asking them about how they've taken robotics, entered the work world, entered the college world, and to tell us their stories of success and all of those areas that were the loopholes of life. Hopefully we save someone else a falling into a pit trap of life someplace. Also during this year, this is our one way that we can reach out and give a lot of our students in our program that college walkthrough experience, have a little bit of an interaction about college campuses. And so if you're out there right now attending your first episode, we have 6 other episodes you can log into on YouTube. Just type in Mustang Robotics Symposium series, and you can check out everything that came before this week. So tonight we have a special guest. We have a young man named Hector, who's a Mustang Robotics alumni from a few years ago, I believe 2016. Hector, how are you doing tonight?
Very good, Mr. Pearson. Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome, my young friend. You like every other person in the group, immediately jumped up and volunteered to participate in this when we asked for help at the beginning of the year. And so I thank you, and I do thank everyone who came before you and stuff. And we were talking earlier that there was a great response from that little core group from your age, your graduation year and stuff. And so the last couple individuals happened to be teammates of yours and or individuals club mates. But Hector, let's get this going and start with why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into eventually at Otay Ranch and Mustang Robotics, but go ahead and start where you like.
Yeah, so as you can probably tell by my accent, I'm Mexican. I know I have a strong accent. That's pretty distinctive of me. Like I don't hide it. So I moved to the U.S. to San Diego, Chula Vista in 2014, and that's when I got into Ultra Ranch High School in 10th grade. So prior to that, I was like 14, 15 years old, and I lived in Culiacan, Sinaloa, Mexico all my life. I did my elementary school there, my kindergarten, my middle school. Middle school actually ends in 9th grade over there. Right. So I did all that. I already knew English. If you had the doubt, it was pretty easy for me to transition because I was in a rather prestigious school in Mexico. So I had like English lessons like every day for half of the day. So I already knew quite a bit of English.
Any engineering at that school, robotics, anything like that while you're at that school in Mexico?
Not really, actually. I'm not sure when my addiction or my like for engineering started. I just knew I like math. I actually, like in my personal statements, I talked about math, my favorite subject. I made an emphasis on that, and I actually concluded that I wanted a career revolving math and something that I could actually have a lasting impact in society, something I could create, something which would help me create stuff, something that would make me have something tangible, something physical, while enjoying the math, which I enjoyed. But as far as in my school in Mexico, I didn't know I was going to be an engineer, especially not an electrical engineer. I was always like inspired by those movies like Iron Man and stuff. I said I wanted to be a mechatronic engineer, but little did I know I was going to become more like an electrical engineer.
Gotcha, kid. So you come to Otay Ranch. Do
Mhm.
you join robotics the first year on campus? How do you discover robotics, and when do you join?
Well, actually, since I joined in 10th grade, which was a year after everyone starts in high school, I felt mistakenly because I could have done better. They told me because I came from Mexico, I probably needed to catch up with everyone else. I needed to be in like the lower level classes in ELD as a non-native speaker. But I soon realized that that would be detrimental to my education since I knew I had like a clear focus where I kind of wanted to get. I wanted to go to a good university. I so I pushed to be in more advanced classes, eventually changed like jumped like integrated math one level. I took pre-calculus, not pre-calculus, I took calculus one at Southwestern College to eventually like catch up with my classmates and eventually take AP Calculus BC. But in 10th grade especially, I just realized like it like school was like I transitioned successfully, and then I decided I think I'm ready to get a jump on this level of education. So I changed to dual language, and this is where I met Nico, Ma, and Cooper, and they would always talk about robotics and stuff. So I said that sounds cool, and then I eventually started hanging out more with Nico and his crew, Raphael, Dale, and all those guys that you know. But it wasn't until 11th grade that I decided to actually join because these guys were telling me so much fun, like you learn a lot, like you stayed pretty late, you
Yeah.
build friendships. So that's something I wanted to be a part of, especially because I felt a little bit, I mean, I know there's a lot of Mexican people in Otay, but I still felt a little bit alienated that I did not have like a group I belong per se.
You
So
were
I
looking
wanted,
for a core group of friends. You were looking for a group that to kind of call your own and belong, regardless of your nationality or your background. We all get drawn into our group. And what's interesting is the way you just said that. Knowing the people, I would love the audience to realize that everyone you just named was a pretty focused individual at that time in their life. They were all very academically focused. One of the more important things going for each and every one of those students.
Mhm.
And so we do have a common theme in all our episodes. You're drawn into the club for the social nerdy part, and look at the smile, and we all know that. And so we are an after-school robotics club on our campus, just for the audience to know. It's all we go out and fundraise and write letters and beg for money so we can do this. It's not funded by anything in our district, and at the same time we draw a very incredibly academic group of students from our campus. And so you definitely fit that. I came for the fun of a nerdy academic event.
I mean, Nico got me whenever he had the Rubik's Cube and I saw everyone with the Rubik's Cube. Like, he had me there. I had to join. Like, it was a bunch of nerds. I wanted to belong there. So
It was a
I knew I was
wonderful
going to fit perfectly there.
So you join and any robotics events, anything you want to talk about real quick that before we continue the episode, anything jump out in your mind? Did you have any trips to states? Did you have an event that you just felt like, oh my God, that one I remember?
Well, yes, I do have a lot of events. Like, first of all, let me put in context, like, what years I was in
Of course.
robotics. I joined in 11th grade, my junior year, which was 2015 to 2016. And then 2016 to 2017, which was my senior year. So something I remember very distinctively was like the first time I went, like whenever you guys were holding trials to recruit the new students. So I thought like that was a pretty interesting dynamic because you folks were basically like scouting for talent and people who fit the profile for this amazing club, right? So I know a lot of people want the opportunity, but we have limited spaces. So I was really glad to be in a place that I could show like how nerdy I am and actually be like embraced by other people because I mean at the end of the day we're all nerds in that club. You could be
Yeah.
yourself, you could talk about math, you could talk about your classes, you could
Yeah.
create stuff, you could stay late until 2 a.m. building robots, which was pretty
Yeah, we don't want to. Okay, we still do that. We still do that. Yes.
well not right now, but
No. No.
just in critical situations, right? So, but as far as events go, yes, that's the first time that I was introduced to a whole new world of teenagers actually trying to get somewhere, to get somewhere in the engineering field. So imagine 15-year-olds actually doing detailed schematics on engineering drawings, actually planning to build a robot. That's pretty amazing. Specifically, I mean, because you're just a kid at that age, right? So it's amazing that I mean I didn't think it was possible for me that I was going to be able to program a robot by 16 or even have a working robot at 15. So I thought that was pretty amazing. The first time that you guys said, "Oh, do you know how to program? Do you know what this line of code means? Do you know how to screw? Do you know how to take this off?" So that first that I actually wrote about this on my personal statement as well. That first time I went to the robotics club to 507, room 507, because we migrated now to your room. But the original room number 507 with Mrs. Salazar, it was an eye-opening experience for me because I I saw a bunch of engineers, a bunch of motivated students, and I knew I wanted to belong.
And what's
Um,
cool is we get to see where they're all at now, and in retrospect, it still is an amazing draw, a magnet of kids. And so, if I just give a little bit of a statement about what Hector's talking about, we are an after-school club. It's only so large of a room. We can only facilitate so many kids in the club. We've had up to 100 students attempt to try out. And what we do is we have alumni come back. And after 12 years of a club and the groups that we have, individuals like Hector will somehow find the way to come to the classroom on a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Wednesday or a Friday and talk to students that want to be in the club and help us just determine a direction to go with the new group. And so that still is an incredibly important and dynamic part of our club, and probably the thing that makes me smile the most at the beginning of the year. It's definitely not the paperwork. Um, okay, so Hector, anything else you want to share with like senior year?
yes, I actually was going to get to the events that I found more memorable. So I like definitely like I was able like my team was able to qualify for states both times that I was there. So I mean I mean even though if the other teams didn't qualify, they want anyway for support because that's how we are, right? We support our teams. We want to make sure we we help everyone with whatever they need, even though we're different individual teams. We're part of a big club, part of a big family. So going to states both times was actually eye-opening as well because you just got to um, what's the word to interact with other schools, other kids that are actually as motivated as you, but they have like that competitive side. So it's a pretty
Yes.
interesting dynamic as well. Seeing like the stress everyone has getting there at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., getting ready, making sure the are on point, making sure the driver is like as skilled as possible, making sure like we can get as many points as we want. So I found going to states memorable because of like everything leading up to it, like staying up late, making sure everything worked, the drives with your teammates, just having fun in the trip, being tired, waking up at 4 a.m., going to McDonald's to get like some pretty nasty breakfast right before the tournament. Um, and yeah, stuff like that, like the little things are memorable. But I mean, the big picture is that we we basically have this foundation for engineering careers that the club leads us.
Yeah.
Um, aside from the state championships, I think it was until the very last, not until the very last year that on my senior year that we implemented the OTI tournament in the theater. So in that that's memorable for me because we actually had the excellence award and we just qualified to state since I don't know, like November. So we worked hard, like, you know, my team, Jack, Emilio, uh, Mackenzie, Dale, um, and yeah, so we qualified, and Jasmine, I can't forget Jasmine. She was our manager. She would kill me if I forget. I haven't forgotten you, Jasmine. um, yeah, having those experiences, especially in our home and at the home school, like winning the excellence award, proved to me that we were a capable team. Like I had actually grown in the club, like saying that we could deliver as a team, not as individuals, because I myself was the programmer along Emilio. I was helping, I was more of a dynamic piece in the team. I started programming. I realizing that we're going to go to States the first year, I had to learn from Adrian. I was interested in learning how to use the arcading problem to do a 3D model for robots. So I was involved in helping Jack finish a robot whenever we needed. So I was a partial builder, partial programmer. I was in charge of CAD. I never did anything on the engineering notebook because my handwriting sucks. Like I'm just going to say it. It's no
Jasmine
lie.
wouldn't let you touch that. Don't.
Yeah.
No. You're the one who doesn't get it right. Nowadays, everyone has to write in the book, so like that would have been unacceptable. You would have had to have perfect handwriting.
Whoa.
Dude, everything you're saying is so awesome because you're just making me smile. It's everything that we mean the club to be as advisors. And if there's other advisors out there watching this, they know that feeling when you watch your students struggle their first year or so in the club, learn new things, build those beliefs. And Hector, I'm a pretty hands off type of guy when it comes to touching your guys' robots. I'm a very verbal, giving you directions and letting you fail. So by senior year, you guys find a lot of success. You guys make it to states. You have some tournament victories. I'm sure there's some lows involved. There's always highs and lows in VEX Robotics. Um, let's talk a little bit now about your more this career pathway. And so robotics triggers a little bit of what direction you want to go in college. Okay, cool.
Yes, definitely. So I I mean, I know there's not a lot of electrical aspects involved in robotics, but as I was taking as I was finishing my high school education, I realized more that and since I got exposure to actually building things, I kind of just got more interested in how the electronics of the robot worked, how you could actually make the motors move from electrical signals, how the brain worked, how you could actually transmit the Bluetooth signals that allow you to control the robot wirelessly. That was an inspiration to me because that's what I'm actually pursuing at the moment to build my career around of. So robotics allowed me to get basically an exposure to all these areas that I was interested. I mean, especially I was between mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. So having the opportunity to be in this club basically just pushed me over the edge to pursue electrical engineering.
Very cool, my friend. And so you do the college process, and we were talking again about previous to the episodes. We always meet with our guests, and right now is early application push. I know that I got a couple Mustangs out there who are
They have like 2 days for early application.
yeah. Oh my God, that date's like stuck in your brain, huh? And you're out of You're not even the kid who has to apply. Correct. I have some letters I have to write tomorrow. But anything you want to say about that process? I know a second ago you said you used something for the motivation of robotics in your letter, but you apply to how many schools? What was the application process like for you? And then walk me through how you chose a school, if you don't mind.
Of course. So I'm not gonna lie, I really tried in my last senior year to look appealing to colleges. I because that first year that I was at OTI, I had 3 years at OTI, my 10th grade, which was when I came from Mexico. I just took one AP class.
Right.
I was trying to move up the ranks in math because they put me like in IM2, integrated math 2, but then I jumped to IM3. So I wanted to be as advanced in math as I could. I kind of tried to do a little vision to which classes I needed to take to pursue an engineering field. So that first year, I focused on transitioning properly, getting a strong foundation on what it was going to be like being a school in the U.S. How the dynamic work with this. I mean, it's a different environment, like socially, educationally. So I wanted to get the foundations properly so I could ramp up on my last 2 years. So on my junior year, I actually took 2 AP classes and I tried to take as many advanced classes as I could to eventually lead to my senior year to take 6 AP classes full on. And while I was in junior year, it's the time I actually went on and decided to go to Southwestern College at night to take Calculus 1 so I could eventually take Calculus BC on my senior year. And that way I could be uh, more prepared for my engineering specifically, but also show to colleges that math actually did interest me. Like it was not something I was trying to put out. It was something that really I had a passion for. And I mean that process is very important, showing that you have a passion for something. I mean, robotics is clearly a passion. You have to spend a lot of time there. You have to grow. Uh,
But what you're
so
explaining is the idea of taking those college courses just shows an academic attack that you're willing to have to
Right.
accomplish where you want to go. And so you felt the bonuses for you to get ready for that application involved you taking the academic courses of math level that you felt that school was probably looking for in their
mhm.
applicants. And once you got to that, how many applications did you put out? Were you one of those kids who stuck out 400, or were you one of those kids who did 3 or 4?
I had very like I did my research. I looked on the kind of like the best engineering colleges I could apply for. Unfortunately, I mean the cost of the application it's expensive, and because I fall in that range that I don't get a waiver. I mean it definitely ramps up the cost for every application. So you have to be mindful of what colleges you want to apply to. I ended up applying to MIT, Stanford, UCSD, UCLA, UC Berkeley, and SDSU, which was like the closest one.
All right, let's not
Exactly.
make that one the last one we say out of note yet. But Hector, we now know what school you choose,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the idea of the route you take leading to where you currently are. So tell the world what was that idea? You get accepted to only that school, or do you get accepted to more than one school?
So I I like I'm gonna be honest. I was like expecting more admissions on my college application because I thought to be I considered myself to be a pretty well-rounded student, being having a strong academics, being in a club. I was involved in the dual language club at my school. I was a vice president. I went to Rancho del Rey Middle School to tutor like bilingual students to be successful in math, in Spanish, in English, everything they needed just to share with them my experience as a Hispanic that's also living in the U.S. that's also struggling to go through school, go to college. I expected more in reality. I ended up doing like 400, 500 community service hours out of that. So, but as far as the college applications go, even though I thought myself to be kind of like a good student, I only got 2 admissions, which were UCSD and SCSU. I got waitlisted at UCLA and then rejected, and rejected at Stanford and MIT.
And that sounds so harsh when you hear that as a kid. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in retrospect of being an adult right now, I would probably imagine you can smile and laugh a little bit, like you're okay with the journey you took and the way that life has kind of presented you what it presented you. But at that time, I think this is important for all of the students out there, seniors, juniors, but eventually sophomores and freshmen, have that reality that you may be shooting for the stars with all of these, That you're not in control of that part. And so as you do get that letter of acceptance, please attack that school that you're going to with all the heart and will that you have to be successful. And so, Hector, you choose UCSD. The
Just give me
school.
1 second
Oh,
before we
yeah,
leave the application process. I just wanted to mention that rather than being putting out there that you want to seem like the perfect student, just be genuine and put your person out there. I think that's what colleges look for instead. I think I at times I focus too much of being a good student on having good extracurriculars, but I didn't successfully convey what kind of person I was, even though I try to put it in there. I they could see from my activities that I did there. Just try to make it seem as human as you can, because at the end of the day, they want to accept not one more number, not one more statistic. They want to accept a person, to especially to those high caliber colleges like MIT, Stanford. They want to accept someone that will form part of a community. They want to establish a community in those prestigious universities. They look for people that will add value to those communities. Not that I wouldn't add value, but they want to know you're going to add the most value that you can while you can. So that's pretty important to keep in mind. Just try to be yourself. Try to convey the person that you genuinely are. Don't try to be someone else. That's my pro tip for applications.
Hector, you're
And
the
don't
man, because you've actually said, we've heard that. It's a running theme of feedback from all the alumni, which is just be yourself and present yourself as a human being. And I've always told kids that pay attention to the community aspect of school and all the what you do outside of the classroom on that campus, and make sure that you fit into that range of activities and that environment and that social aspect. You do pick UCSD, which we definitely want to highlight as an incredibly prestigious college. And I do understand why we talk about some of those other schools with a little bit of cloud and all that. But let's make sure the world around here understands that you're entering a program of incredible quality. College that has multiple sections of it ranked number one in the world, especially their oceanography and all of that. It's right next to the ocean. It's beautiful. And Hector, you jump onto this campus and you start to find some things in the education classroom that just fit you. And we've had a lot of conversations about integrating that first year to campus. There's ups and downs all through that. I think what's interesting with you, my friend, is during that first year, somehow you find yourself in a situation that you are introduced to research and involved it, or at least that direction of something and
You mean at
more.
UCSD?
Yeah, well, tell me about your first year at UCSD and how you start to do things inside and outside the classroom.
Okay, just before that, let me just uh, tell you how I actually decided between
Oh,
UCSD and
sure.
SDSU, which were ultimately the two colleges I was accepted to. They're both local. They are both great colleges, but I did my research into both schools. At that point, I had to make a decision. I got actual admissions from both. Um, and it like for me, because I fall in that range that I do not get financial support, I have to take care of my expenses. I really had to do research and find the cost of education, the cost of attendance to both colleges, and be mindful of how much I was going to be spending, how much I was going to be responsible for, and and just making sure I tried to come up. I mean, my dad told me to come up with some kind of budget, because this is what actual grown-ups are supposed to do, to wait on important decisions. This is true. Like, this is not a lie. I was
This is you in
17.
high school saying this, and that's why I giggle, because I'm thinking of you at 18, and your dad's going, "This is what adults do," and you're looking at him like, "Okay, I'll
I was
try. Let me
17.
figure this
I was
out."
17. I was still in high school. I had to make this decision that would be potentially one of the biggest one of my life, right? Getting an education somewhere, it's no light decision. You have to be mindful. I ultimately decided to go to UCSD because of I did research on the electrical engineering department. It was an up and comer in between the national universities, getting better at the electrical engineering level, had faculty that had experience in both academia and industry. And I wanted that perspective, especially from engineers, because ultimately, I mean, I think a lot of engineers going to school thinking I'm going to work for a company next, or I'm going to create something next, not I'm going to go back and be a professor next. So I wanted to get that perspective from faculty, what it's like to work at a company for 10, 20, 30 plus years. Because a lot of these faculty are uh, retired engineers that got a PhD, came back to school to teach. So getting that perspective for me was very important, very key to deciding I ultimately wanted to go to UCSD.
Excellent, Hector. And that part also triggers like you worked a lot during this time when you were at college, and for some students, you're graced with money that comes toward you from the college, the campus. But one of the things you also told me is that you had to figure out the employment part and all of that, and that's an incredibly hard dynamic of how you have to walk through school sometimes is making sure the finances work out. So you choose your school,
Mm-hmm.
and we start to go down the route of electrical engineering. And I know that part of what we understand that you've done is this research or presentations, papers. How does that part work? Because I think you're one of our first students who's coming in. We've had past students work for JPL and do summer internships and things like that. But this is actually while you're actively being a student in school, you're also asked to be doing something else. And so, why don't you tell us about that? Because I think that's going to trigger a lot of interest in the crowd about your experience in college.
So coming into my first year at UCSD, I actually found a job over summer. I Right after I graduated Ultra, I went to this graduation trip with Mr. McBride. I came back, and first thing I wanted to do is look for a job to make sure I could cover expenses I may have during the school year. So I ended up getting a job at Kumon, like right here by Heritage. That's where I started. That was my first job ever as a math instructor, English instructor. I was there for like about 1, 2 months because having contacts at robotics, especially Mark Salazar, Steven Salazar work at this company called robolink. And Mark said, "Hey, man, I'm leaving to UCLA. Do you want my spot at robolink? I can recommend you. It's a robotics company. You just teach kids how to program, how to build robots. And I mean, that's what we did at robotics, right? So we already, like, I was qualified for that job. So first thing I said, yes, of course, I would love to have that job. So ultimately, right as I started UCSD in September 2017, I started working at robolink, and that's when I started to have a job and going to school in parallel. I was trying to limit my job hours at the beginning because I wanted to get a feel of how time consuming college was going to be. So I mean, even though like this job was a part-time job, like I didn't even work like more than 10 hours a week. I try to limit. It was lots of classes of 2 hours. I kept it mostly on the weekends so I could actually focus on the schoolwork I had to do. I was pretty excited at the beginning because this introductory course that they have at UCSD actually give you a sneak peek. I mean, you don't know the concepts behind electrical engineering yet, but they have you do practical experiments like program an LED light with Arduino. I mean, you don't even know what LED is until like second year of at UCSD how they work. It's actually very, very key component in electronics, and everyone says LED. Do you even know what LED means? Stands for, Mr. Pearson?
A light emitting diode.
A diode is one of the fundamental components we learn as electrical engineers. So we didn't even know that was going to be a key part of what we learned, but they are. Like, they introduced us to this stuff early on. They had us analyze how to use these computer programs like SolidWorks, uh, actually solder like a circuit for a speaker, which I actually still have. It actually works. Not anymore because the iPhones don't have the aux cord anymore, right? But they had a solder speaker, even though we didn't know how to build amplifiers at the moment. Now we do. 3 years, 4 years into the career, how to build amplifiers, how to build all that. Um, and yeah, these introductory courses actually give you a sneak peek very well into what you're going to be exposed to, and it's pretty exciting to know that what I was like, especially because of the job that Mark gave me the opportunity to have, was actually working in robotics, where I was learning about electrical engineer. And as I was diving more into like how programming actually intersects with hardware components, because ultimately coding turns into binary, which actually interpreted by logic gates like hardware. I could see that flow. And when I would teach in this place called Robolink, I would be pretty excited telling the kids, man, this is just a tip of the iceberg. This is pretty interesting. Just stay on this path. It gets crazy. I would get them excited. I could give more insight as an engineer. So it's a beautiful experience, I gotta say.
So I believe Sophia is about to give us a question from the crowd. And so, Sophia, is there a question from everyone watching right now?
Yes, but before I ask this question, I'd like to remind everyone, especially those who are just joining, that if you have any other questions for Hector during the interview, make sure to add it in the chat box. So our first question from our audience is, what was the hardest course you took in your major at UCSD?
Well, right now I'm currently in my last quarter at UCSD to finish my bachelor's degree. I'm an admitted student for a BS/MS program. So the plan is to go in January to jump to my master's degree. So I'm still finishing, I would say, the hardest courses. I cannot accurately say that yet because I have two depths. I have two focuses on my electrical engineering major. I'm focusing on electronic circuits and systems, which focuses on how integrated circuits come to be, like those circuits that you find on your cell phones, those circuits that you find in all the electronics you have, those. And I actually focus on power engineering as well. So everything from power generation, power distribution, how the power lines that you see when you're on the road work, the inductance, the capacitance that they have, how engineers come to build that, the safety measures you have to take into account, and power devices that actually power your computers, how to make batteries, how to take into account thermal considerations. But so far, I would say the hardest class I've taken would be the ones I'm taking currently, which are analog circuit design and microwave circuit design, which are ultimately the areas that I want to go into. They are difficult, they are time consuming, but it's what interests me. So I really have a motivation to learn all this hard material because it's something I want to be able to master and pursue further in my master's degree as well. So the answer for that was analog circuit design and microwave circuit design.
Analog circuit design and micro. So along the way, and for everyone out there, yes, my computer's having its wonderful ins and outs right now. So if you saw me freeze, Hector, I know that you are also doing some work with some professors. What class were you in when a professor approached you, or was it you did an assignment and they just recognized there was a quality about you that they needed they would love to have you helping them in some research? Because for a lot of us, I think we dream of going to college and doing something on campus with professors. Like you were saying earlier, you researched the staff and the individuals that you would be interacting with as you tried to get your degree. Which one of them decided that they wanted you helping them? Do you want to give a shout out to a professor at UCSD?
Yes, I would. All in due time, Mr. Pearson, all in due time. So I will give the shout out to the person that has helped me the most at UCSD. This professor, I've been working with him for close to 2 years now. It's pretty amazing. So how that came to be, though, is that I wanted to go through my first year at UCSD, first year and a half or so, learning the basics, making sure I could actually bring something meaningful to the table once I took a research position. I I was working in parallel at this place called Robolink. As I said before, I went through all my basic classes, took all my math classes, my physics classes, finished that curriculum. Oh, by the way, whoever asked that question, if you expected me to say that math was one of the harder courses, well, not really. Like that's what I enjoy. I like the pain of math. I think it's pretty interesting. I definitely took all the physics courses from your standard mechanics to quantum mechanics, electromagnetism, all the crazy stuff, relativity, all those fulfill that curriculum before I could actually uh, begin to have an idea of what I wanted to do in research. So at UCSD, uh, I I knew that there was this thing called the Summer Research Internship uh, program that my department, the Electrical and Computer Engineering department, offers at UCSD during summer, but you have to apply by December of the previous year to do it the following summer. So after I had done roughly a year, actually, no, it was 1 year exactly, 1 year. So I went in September 2017. I ended up applying for this program like November, December 2018. After I knew like the basics of circuits, which was the area I wanted to get into. My focus was since the beginning. I power power engineering was something I like paved along the way that I decided I wanted to go into because I think it's important to have that perspective as an engineer also. Pretty basic understanding of how power distribution, power generation works. But my main interest was always to be in integrated circuits. But as I took my classes and as I saw these projects that were posted at UCSD, I thought this project that involved non-GPS accurate positioning. So basically creating a position location system that allow you to use another wireless communication scheme other than GPS. So this has to do more with the radio frequency integrated circuit design aspect of education. I like there's just like hundreds of projects you could be a part of, and I did my research. I found this project. I thought I want to get into this wireless area. Like it's amazing. Like I know it will take off. It will be impactful in the short future. Like this is where technology is going to be wireless. How we can make the wireless communication schemes, the wireless communication world better. And I saw that this professor that actually was in charge, he was the vice president at Qualcomm for quite a few years. He had experience. He was the VP of engineering. He had experience in chips that actually went into iPhones. His name is Professor Dr. Prasad Gudam. Big shout out to him. He's shown me a lot. He has patience. He has had the patience to helping me grow along the way. I mean, I was a second year student. He took me under his wings since that early. And from that project, trying to create a non-accurate GPS position location system, and since he actually has another passion for, since he's partially retired, he likes to have fun. He is also into the aerodynamics of boomerangs. So he actually, I didn't know boomerangs were an actual thing until I met him. Like I thought they were a joke from cartoons. These are real things. They actually come back. Like it's not a lie. I've thrown them. They come back.
Oh yeah, I know.
It takes practice. It's a little bit hard. You get sore. I'm weak, but you get sore like from throwing. But ultimately, we wanted to merge this technology to track the trajectory of boomerangs in midair. So we ultimately, I mean, Professor had already an idea on using this technology called ultra-wideband systems, UWB, which is a low power wireless communication scheme that has become popular in the recent years as a very precise positioning system. So our main goal was to understand the nature of this and being able to create a successful position location system with these commercially available devices from this company called DecoWave that recently got purchased by Corvo. Corvo is a bigger corporation here in the US that makes wireless chips and for radio frequencies. So, as I said, this project was specifically appealing to me because we were going to use a cutting edge technology, something that is emerging, something that is becoming popular, and it was a very cool project. I mean, how cool is throwing a boomerang? Like,
well, and I think what's interesting, Hector, is you're just very precise about how you look at things, and you find how you look at a bunch of variables that you find very important, and you search out the ones that you're looking for, and that gives you a lot of direction. But we had a friend of yours share that he went to like a summer job fest and threw his stuff on the JPL table, and it sounds like it's a little like that. But we have Sophia back, and that represents that someone else out there in Twitch land has a question for us. So what's up, Sophia?
A member of Mustang Robotics would like to ask for any advice that you might have about building these connections in order to connect with professors and be able to be like successful on these research projects.
Okay, sounds good. So I would say, I know you're in college. I know you guys would be close to being adult. I mean, legally you would be an adult, but you still have that process of changing your mindset. You would still be in a classroom learning. I mean, hopefully when this pandemic goes away, everything comes back to normal, but you are still in a classroom. You still interact with the professors. Like these professors at UCSD have been proved to be motivational. They have been amazing. They're open. They have these things called office hours where you can go interact with them. So even if like I would say the best way to build these connections. I mean, I didn't build this connection with this professor specifically. I didn't have him for my class. He's a grad school professor. He teaches master's students, PhD students. So the fact that he took me in as a second year was amazing. But these underclass or undergraduate professors, the best shot you have to building these relationships is to show interest in the material, to show that you want to master the material, even if you have the slight doubt or if you have any other perspective, if you have any suggestions on how they should be conveying the material, because you have a voice, like they're there to help you. You have a voice in how they should be helping you, because at the end of the day, you're gonna try to make a career out of what they're teaching you, or at least it's going to have an impact on what career you choose. So definitely approaching them, presenting you, just so even if they know you by, some professors actually try to know all their students by name, which is amazing. One of my, like, she knows me by name, even after 2 years I've taken her class. So that's an amazing level of engagement that professors strive for. And I would say, like, if you have a doubt, if you have questions, I know it would be intimidating being in a room full of adults, uh, a room full of smart people, a room full of capable people just like you. Don't be afraid to voice your opinion, to go with the professor, approach them after class. I think even like it'd be prudent to even invite them for a coffee if you want to get to know them better, because at that stage you're transitioning to being in the real world. And if there's something you want, you should go out and get it. Like, you shouldn't be waiting for the opportunity. You should be taking steps, like baby steps, careful, focused steps to get to where you want to be. So definitely do not be afraid to approach your professors.
What I hear from you, Hector, is research what direction you're going. Make sure you identify that the direction you're choosing to go, if you're ready to start doing interactions with teachers that aren't just academic based, but research quality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Check into what they're looking at. Make sure it triggers that emotional interest. I'm always super honest with robotics students. Hey, you know what? If you find 1 year you're loving it, the next year you want to go off and do something else, have a great time. I'll support you. Most students don't leave. We have a great time in our club, but you find a value in the exercise that's going to be accomplished, or the task, and that's what's going to draw you in. The other part is be ready for that. Don't just jump in the first day you're on campus, but make sure all your as I would say, prerequisites of what people are looking for are kind of in
Yes,
line.
prereqs.
And for you, you're looking at a lot of mathematics, which thank God for you is easy, and you're just loving it, love the challenge. We're looking at an ability to comprehend high level materials. I'm imagining also at that time you throw out something about group dynamics and the idea that when you are working with this professor, at some point you're supposed to be more peer level interactions. And that's what I just heard from you. Invite them to a coffee, start to be more human, really say what you want to say. Don't be afraid to bite your tongue. I would hope that the Mustang alumni out there listening and the Mustang students would say, I kind of listen that way. I love for you to tell me what you think, and then we'll start bouncing stuff off of each other. So, Hector, you got lucky. I don't want to say that, but you did. You signed. Okay, I still don't understand this though. You walk into a giant room with a bunch of sign up sheets. You signed up on the internet. I kind of really want to imagine walking through this with you. Is it 100 different options for you to sign up at UCSD, or is there 10? Was there 100 available spots for internships, or was there 5? Like,
Oh, I see
okay,
what you're saying. Like,
yeah,
you mean in the research position, like this SRT?
correct.
Okay. So as I said, like this, my department has this specific program, and you can basically know. I mean, by the time you apply, I mean, that's what I wanted to take my time to basically know the department, know the professors. By the time you're actually analyzing all these projects, because professors try to have like 2 or 3 projects in which they require like, I don't know, 2, 3, sometimes undergraduate, sometimes graduate students, sometimes PhD students. It's really open for everyone. But the important thing is that you should be able to identify which area you want to go in before. I mean, or even if you want to, like, if you are shy in an area, you're not that good in an area, if you want to go there and learn something new, that would be completely acceptable too. I just went down this route because this is the route that interests me. I wanted to get better at this. I thought that Professor Gudem, was going to be a great mentor for me due to his background in industry, that he was a VP at Qualcomm. Like that's not something you see every day.
No, that's a bonus
And
score of experience to have as
so
an
yes,
individual who's your mentor. A
to
bonus.
have to have like, to answer your question, if there are like 30, 40 professors and they have 3, 4 projects each that require 2 or 3 students each, you have to be thorough in which, I would say, like the flow of thinking you should be having is identify the area you want to go into first, and then see which projects match this area you're interested on. Or if you like a professor specifically because you had them, that'd be a great way to start a relationship to a new area of interest. But I would say more than the relationship with the professor, it should be a material that interests you, because you're gonna be spending a lot of hours, a lot of nights trying to learn new material, so you get to a level of competency to where you can contribute, and then you have to come up with new ideas to contribute to the project to push this research
Right.
forward. As you said, I got lucky. My professor, even though he's retired, he
Yeah.
likes publishing papers nonstop. By the time like I had been 3, 4 months in with him, we had published like two papers. One on once we were using this technology, UWB, we realized that this emerging 5G, the 5th generation mobile communications, 5G and R, they share the same frequency spectrum with this UWB technology. And since 5G is allowed to have more power output, more energy output than UWB, like by 10,000 times, we it clicked to the professor that it might be detrimental to these devices. So we want to analyze the impact we're going to have, because 5G is coming fast. 5G is going to be, I mean, it is a thing. Like they have it on the new iPhones, they have it on the new Samsungs, the new phones that are emerging, they have 5G. So we're actually using those frequency bands now. So making that connection to the technology we're using, to what's the technology that's going to be emerging and how it's going to be affected, that resulted in our first paper. So what we did was analyze the impact of 5G and our jammers. So we
You
consider
found
them
like
as jammers.
you found interference values, places where the signals would cross and the communication from the 5G would interfere with the UAV, something like that.
It's not UAV. UAV, it's unmanned aerial vehicles, right?
No,
It's
no, no.
UWB. UWB.
Yeah.
Ultra wideband. Yes.
But you were looking at interference values, like where those places would be detrimental to the lower frequency power.
Not physical. We didn't look like at physical places. We looked at the signal characteristics and the standards that are defined by IEEE, which is like the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, that define like basically how all wireless communications, all like these new emerging technologies should be governed by, specifically from the FCC point of view, like how many emissions the human body can take, how cautious we need to be. So analyzing that interference was what yielded our first paper. And we found that, yes, this emerging 5G technology will definitely affect this UWB position location system.
Gotcha. That triggered Sophia to jump right back in here with another question. What's up, Sophia?
Someone in our audience who's really interested in wireless communication wants to know your opinion about what you think the next step of wireless communication will be after 5G.
Well, okay, so this cellular communication schemes, like these generations, are supposed to last like 5-10 years. Like 5G has been in development since like the early 2010s, even before. So there's really, I have no opinion, because we're really at a point in time where we are seeing like how capable we are before we make the technology, because there's so many technologies that are emerging that it's basically unimaginable what's going to be next, like at least from my perspective. Because there's just this thing that that Elon Musk just released, like the chip you can put in your head, right? The Neuralink chip. Like there's quantum computers now. Like those are governed by different kinds of physics than the ones I do for electrical engineering. There's I don't know. They're trying to do all these crazy things with light now. We don't want to communicate through electricity anymore. We want to communicate. Even though like we consider voltage and current as waves, light is another wave, travels faster. It's just the amount of advancements that are happening at the moment are we're at a turning point. It's going to define what's next. But in terms of wireless communications, I think what's next after 5G, it's just tailoring 5G. It's improving it, getting to crazy speeds of downloads, basically making it pretty robust, because 5G is we're gonna use it at the fastest type of 5G, which is in FR2. It's a higher frequency, like 27 gigahertz. It has less penetration of like in objects in cities through walls. So you need higher densification. You need more antennas. You need way more antennas than you would need in the lower spectrum that we use at the moment for 4G, 3G, 2G, and all those lower speeds. So basically figuring out how to make 5G robust is going to be a challenge itself. You can see that the major telephonic, like the telecommunication companies, are starting to roll out slowly this 5G. They're still in this testing phase. Like nothing is definitive with 5G, but what comes next in the wireless domain is we're going to see, I think, from what I think, is that we're going to see a whole bunch of power distribution that it's able to transmit wirelessly, like just like wireless charging. I think for electric cars could be. But in the terms of communications, just achieving that high densification, making sure we can support like billions of people at a time, which needs to happen, and just making sure we reach crazy speeds to stream Netflix while we walk down the street or something.
All the gamers out there are just waiting for their Xbox game to download in like 8 seconds instead of say like 8 hours. And so, Hector, this research has actually taken you and allowed you to travel a little bit. So what did you get to do with some of this research? Share that part.
So yeah, I think before the question, we were on the fact that we did publish a paper on this interference between 5G and these ultra wideband systems. So where that led us, we specifically published this paper because we looked for conferences that were IEEE endorsed. So this this hmm, it's an institute. It's an institute by electrical engineers. So that's endorsed. So because Prasad knows the games, my professor knows the game. He knew how to make it to those conferences. So this paper was specifically found a conference where we thought it was going to be successful. It has to be about the topic. So we ultimately applied to this conference called IPIN, Indoor Positioning and Indoor Navigation Conference. So this was going to happen in Italy, Pisa, Italy, in 2019 in October. So prior to that, we published a paper. I actually did my SRIP, the Summer Research Internship Program at UCSD, 10 weeks during summer. We pushed this project forward because we're still trying to verify to this day with simulations like because we proved some things, but we want to make sure the theory, because we had some discrepancies, that the theory, simulations, and measurements all are connected. They are support each other. Or if we have discrepancies between one another, we maybe can extend the theory. So that's what we're looking at. During those 10 weeks, at the culmination of those 10 weeks that I actually did simulations, did more experiments, did more measurements, I got to present at UCSD at this conference. So that was practice for me because at the end, because my peer, my other colleague that Prasad took under his wing, his name is Gino Carfano. He's been a mentor to me himself. He's a student that's a year older than me. He had more experience than me. So at times that I didn't understand stuff, he took the lead. He explained me how to do things. So I'm really grateful about him too. Like I got two amazing individuals that took my hand. They guided me. They endorsed me and they pushed me to strive for more. So at the end of the day, because Gino was at a harder time in academically, because he was going to transition to his master's, they decided that I was going to go to this conference and present the material on the paper alone. So I was going to be at 18, 19 years old in front of professors, PhDs, people in industries, doctors that had been in the industry, that have been professors, that have been electrical engineers for 20, 30 plus years. And
longer than you've been alive. Longer than you've been alive.
Exactly. Exactly. Literally. So I was nervous, but this conference that I had during summer allowed me to prepare for that. I had to be mentally prepared to answer questions, technical questions. So this paper, Prasad made me learn it word by word, and he would make sure I knew it word by word. So because this is highly technical information, I had to be ready to answer anything they may ask. I had to be ready to convey this information and because Prasad wants me to be at a higher level to what his perspective is, he's tried me to do a very good presentation in which, I know like people, like kids are told like, hey, don't look at the slides, you're supposed to be explaining the slides, don't read anything. So making sure I tailor that process was interesting because I was going to be presenting to literal PhDs, literally doctors. So when I got to that's like I actually got to go to Pisa, Italy by myself for a week, me alone, no one else, no professor, no parents, no one. I went alone.
No parents. I love how you
No
said
parent, nothing. No, I went alone. I was in a plane. I went through all that process of getting your hotel, getting ready, studying for the conference, seeing the conference program, actually looking at what talks you wanted to go, and just preparing for the big day, making sure my presentation was on point. So I ultimately, when I went to Pisa, Italy, I had been rehearsing my presentation for months then, but at that moment I realized that people there, because they're doctors, they have been at that stage, they do it like probably like every month. They don't care, they went to present like in shorts and stuff, but I wanted to give a good impression, because who knows, then maybe I potentially work with someone from there like many years in the future. So could be an investor for some company I'm building or something like that. So, I had to take my suit, I had to take my tie, I had to be presentable. So that's what I ended up
And
doing.
you look, and Hector, we had a picture of you, I believe that Jacob showed, and it's a marvelous feeling to know that at least all the VEX people out there are totally imagining judging interviews and stuff, and those role plays that we go through. But what you did at that moment, I'm very incredibly proud of, and the whole entire club is proud to say that you as an alumni are a person who's presented to people who are experts in the world, and that I'm imagining on the list of a bunch of our students out there, they would love to get to that point. And again, we go back to Hector says, be human, be who you are, research your opportunities, shoot for the gold, but make sure you're ready for it. And so you end up in Italy. I think there's a picture of you trying to kick over the Leaning Tower of Pisa I've seen before.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I had to do it. I had to do the tourist stuff. I went alone, so I had an opportunity to actually go out there and actually experience a whole other continent on my own, like with no one I knew. No one I knew was nearby. So it was definitely a life changing experience, I would say, to reach a level of, I would say, uh, professionalism, maturity, and like educationally, to know the path I wanted to pursue after I finished uh, my education at UCSD. And ultimately, that went on successfully. And we ended up publishing another paper, but this one was aimed to an aerodynamics and more like aerospace conference, which had to do with the aerodynamics of boomerangs. But in this one, our part, me and my peer, was just to develop this 3D imaging of the boomerang, because Prasad actually goes through all the math for the lift, for the like all the crazy equations that take into account the physics of the boomerang and the shape of the boomerang. It's math I don't even understand, but because I'm in the electronics part of it.
No, but
So
it's okay, Hector. If you don't understand it, then all of us are just going to be watching you try to explain it.
oh
Um,
no, I know Adrian understands it. He
yes, yes, there are a couple of your friends out there watching. I hope tonight. I hope there's a lot of alumni out there watching tonight. To tell you the truth. So Hector, we also have some other experiences that are connected with your career goals and stuff. So, any other jobs that you want to talk about that you've had or experiences? That are searching out into other fields or other opportunities for yourself?
so I when I was at Robolink, I had a great time. But ultimately, like I was teaching a lot of younger students. So I like kids, little kids. I was teaching kids how to program five. There was a point that I had like the little kids 3, 4 years old. I built them. I had them for, I don't know, 40 plus hours during summer, like a babysitter. But we were having fun building Legos and teaching them how to program at
Yeah.
4 years old. So but programming, it was like scanning these sheets, because they couldn't actually type the code or with blocks. So you had to get creative. Ultimately, I ended up transitioning to being a academic tutoring at this other company called Genie's Center of Educational Excellence, where I teach mostly physics because of my engineering background. I teach all the AP physics students, all the regular physics, and a lot of math students. That's my main job during the week. Even currently, that I'm not in a summer internship or anything like that. That has been the case since September 2018. So it seems like almost 2 years actually. just past 2 years that I've been working at the tutoring. It's pretty different from my other opportunities because in this case I'm not an actual employee. I'm more like an independent contractor. So I basically give the my services to the company, even though I have an actual boss, but he's not actually my boss legally. You can see how to you in a sense you grow because you learn how to manage this in your taxes, how to schedule your own students, how to make your own hours, and basically be mindful that you have to organize your week around that, taking into account that you still have school to take care of and the research to take care of on top of that. So I did research, I did my work, and I did the school, all in parallel during the week. Like these past 2 years have been busy for me, but ultimately that has led me to good opportunities. So I remember I was in a research meeting. It was pretty random. This summer that just passed, summer 2020, this is the year I had a plan. My plan was to get the foundations right, be in a research position that I could actually take advantage of, which I did. We ended up publishing 2 papers. I ended up presenting at conferences. That's great. But I got the research perspective. I wanted to get the industry perspective now. So it was time for me to get out there and apply as an actual and work as an actual engineer somewhere. I remember this was in January 2020, this January, right before the pandemic. I was at a research meeting. I still was in the process of thinking which companies to apply, and I got this pretty random email from Amazon saying, "Hey, we have electrical engineering opportunities. Would you want to apply?" And I was at my meeting at a Friday at 6 p.m. presenting our findings to Prasad, to our research group, because we have different many projects that I'm not involved in. And I took 10 minutes and I submitted my resume. I submitted my GPA, the classes I've taken at UCSD. And right when the pandemic was, when we were in lockdown, like I really did that really randomly. It was just an impulse. I didn't do much research on what opportunities Amazon could bring for me. I was still in the process of looking for companies that could provide me meaningful experience. So, before that, actually in January, that was in January, but in November, right before around my Thanksgiving break, I had been applying to companies like Tesla because I wanted to get some power engineering background in electric HCVs, in electric vehicles. I was trying to apply to Qualcomm because Qualcomm is a chip maker. I applied to Microsoft. I applied to and some other Apple. I applied to Apple. Actually, an alumni from Otay Ranch, like he went like in 2013 or something. He sent me an invitation on LinkedIn, and he actually arranged for me to send my resume for a hardware position. So I thought that was pretty amazing. Just going to a school has like, I have a pretty good suggestion actually before I proceed, before I forget.
Okay.
I have a lot of my peers from my year that have just recently made their LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very powerful, like professional tool. Like you have no idea. People that went to your school 10 years ago can see you just by the fact that you went to OTAI. You can get opportunities for jobs. I mean, never in a million years I imagine someone from Apple, like an actual program manager from Apple that went to OTAI Ranch would contact me to apply there. So that was eye-opening for me. So I was like, wow, having this LinkedIn really paid off. On
Well,
top of
there's
like,
more than one alumni who's told us about LinkedIn, and we've been told this. So, guys, make sure that you make one of these LinkedIn accounts as you make your way out of high school level interactions and into college. Because what my friend's telling you is this is a networking system that allows you to find people that have usually common places you've been, either colleges or even all the way back to high school. And I will be very honest, Hector, you probably have a good group of kids that have opportunities that they would love, to open doors for you. And one day you may be able to open a door for someone that was in robotics a year after you or a year after that. Um, okay, so I get this weird thought in my head, and I know it's just random, but how did they know about you? Like,
Amazon.
because that's the one place you get this thing in January or in December. Hey, check this out. We have an electrical engineering position, but that's not a place you applied to. So does your professor that you work for throw your name out someplace? Do you ever find out how Amazon hears about you?
So I think because Amazon is such a big company, they have recruiters. A lot of big companies have recruiters. I had gone to Microsoft career fairs at my school, and I'm actually a member of a honor engineering society at UCSD. They arrange these kind of career fairs. So I had gone, given my resume, talked to a few lower end companies. Some were higher end companies like Intel. Apple actually went a few times to UCSD. So having those opportunities to interact, get pointers on your resume, actually saw what other companies were doing was it's good to attend this fairs, these events, because you get a sense of what's actually happening in industry and what type of people are competent with you, like what type of people is your competition at the moment, and what type of people companies are looking for. But as far as Amazon goes, I think they found me due to my LinkedIn. They sent me that invitation through LinkedIn, and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
this is where it paid off to have LinkedIn, because recruiters looking from my electrical engineering slash radio frequency wireless technology engineer. They looked at my background on ultra wideband system on radio frequency systems, and they said, "Hey, we have this opportunity as an
yes.
electrical engineer. You should apply." So they had me to apply. They had me apply to this very general, broad electrical engineering position. But I just applied. It was just an impulse. I had my resume all made because I had already applied to all those other companies. I said, well, here goes one more. I know this. My resume is on point. I know this is ready. They didn't really provide me with much information about the position, just the qualifications.
Right.
So by the time like we were full on lockdown, like I think I was taking a nap or something like a Friday or a Thursday. I woke up and then I look at my email and I see that, oh, hey, we liked your resume at Amazon and we would like to have an interview for you for this Project Hyper. And I'm like, what the hell is Project Hyper? Like, what is this Amazon division? Turns out this division that they wanted me for is emerging to be one of the biggest competitions for Starlink. It's Amazon's way of deploying a fleet of 3,286 or 36 low Earth orbit satellites. And they wanted me to be a part of their electrical engineering team. So I got that email. I was like, wow. So that those 10 minutes that I took in January showed me that actually not giving up any opportunity I have for, I mean, even if it came by chance, it was meant for it, like it there was a reason for that opportunity to be in front of my eyes. So I did it. I ultimately did the did the interview one day at 8 a.m. I actually did shave for that interview to look more presentable. Even though we didn't put video, so I shaved in vain. I lost my beard for 3 months. Uh, that was pretty sad. But I had prepared. I made sure I like that process is the first actual technical interview I have had for a company. I didn't have any previous interviews before, so at that stage, I just wanted to make sure, because this is no lie. A lot of people just bluff on the resumes. So make sure if you're gonna build a resume, like whatever you put, it's something you actually know, and that if they ask you during the interview, you're certain that you can answer it and you can answer it well. Otherwise, it can affect you. It can affect your credibility. And I mean, why would you want to lie if like they're hiring you for specifically something, right? So I prepared for that interview, make sure I knew everything on my resume on point. I think I even updated my resume a little bit because it had changed from January to like whenever I had the interview. So I sent them the updated one. They asked me some very general. I mean, this engineer I work with, a great mentor too, Jung-Jin Kim. He was the engineer I worked with during this entire summer. He made me some very general, very generic electrical engineering questions about amplifiers, about some electronic devices we use in our major pretty often. But then having this background on radio frequency, on this UWB research really helped me because he was looking for someone that actually understood advanced concepts of microwave circuits, advanced concepts on RFIC, radio frequency integrated circuit, because he wanted something. We wanted the radio frequency team. Like they hired me for the radio RF team, the radio frequency team. I got hired for that. So they wanted someone with that background, or at least an understanding, a basic understanding, to know what we were gonna be dealing with. So ultimately, I had that interview. I thought the questions were a little bit hard at the moment, but I did my best to prepare. I'm pretty sure the engineer that interviewed me saw that because I'm just a student. I was at the time, it was my last quarter of my third year. So he knew probably that I was following the footsteps to know this advanced material well. Even though I didn't know the answers, I was honest when I didn't know something, but I told them what I did know, and I told them things related to those specific questions. So not like saying you being honest in the interview is also pretty important. So if you don't know something, just be straight up. I mean, worst thing that can happen is that they don't give you the job, but at least they can give you pointers to what you should do next. So I think even at that interview, it was the first time that specific engineer interviewed me, interviewed anyone. So he told me, I at the end of the interview, I said, "Do you have any pointers for me?" And he said, "Yeah, blah blah blah." And he said, "Hey, do you have any pointers for me?" Because it's the first time I'm interviewing, and I'm like, "Oh, well, I told him some feedback and what I thought, honestly.
Yeah.
And now that it comes to mind, because all this big, like, this is usually a bigger deal with bigger companies. They have a standard set of values um, that they venerate, like that they take into account the most. So definitely do the research on the values of your specific company. At least Amazon is very big on this set of principles they call the leadership principles. There's 13 of them. And I made sure I knew because they ask you things about the company. I made sure I knew this specific leadership principles because it's a big, like, Amazon culture is built around this. Jeff Bezos, he made this to have everyone motivated.
It's the
And
philosophy, the philosophical point of view of the company and the leadership. So everyone below is supposed to follow that as the mainstay, the glue of the company.
exactly.
And we've definitely talked about that openly with all my Mustangs that are here listening. That you got to research what you're trying to get into, whether it's college, whether it's even Mustang Robotics, and you want to try out for the team. You got to kind of know what you're doing. But when we get to the point of life where you're at, you're talking about getting on the internet, doing some real decent, thorough looking at companies where they've started, how they've grown, where they're at, and then trying to bring that into your interview so that you are more dynamic. Plus, you're showing the buy-in and the high interest level in the company itself to do all that research, the history portion of that.
Mm-hmm.
Hector, another thing that starts to come out as a common thread between alumni telling us these are things we should be doing. I do know that one more time, we are talking about this LinkedIn, and I bet you we have about 20 new accounts since you brought that up not too long ago. LinkedIn is man, maybe I should get one, and maybe one day I'm not Mr. Pearson professor here. I'm just joking, guys.
Oh, even when I was in Kumon, I had a LinkedIn because I saw it as a big opportunity. So even putting your experience you had in high school, because LinkedIn is a place that even if it's like specifically for younger people, you can put literally any experience, any skills you have, because it's like a record of what you have done. You're not limited to this one page that a resume traditionally is. In LinkedIn, you can put anything. any experience you have, and it's a place where you can actually express more than you would in one single one letter sized paper. So it's a great opportunity for young people to start.
It presents as a portfolio of experiences that allows to be seen as way more dynamic than just the
Mm-hmm.
concept of a one-page letter with a please hire me type of statement. I would love to
Exactly.
be, your employee, and here's a couple people that'll give me a thumbs up. When you can look at something that is created as you go along. And I think one of the things, Hector, that you've done is along the way you keep that up to date. You're putting things in there and you're keeping it fresh. And that may be one of those tools that a lot of those students who just signed up for an account need to learn right away. You got to go back through all those robotics experiences. Plug in VEX Robotics, guys. VEX Robotics Nation is worldwide. You never know where that's going to take you. But just like Hector said, maybe it's an OTI kid. For Hector one day, maybe it's another UCSD kid. And then on the flip flop, maybe Hector is going to be running a company someday and he's out there looking at all these LinkedIn accounts trying to figure out the next kid that he's going to hire. Anything else come out of Amazon for you, Hector?
Well, yeah, now that you actually just on that subject that we're on LinkedIn pretty fast. So I would say, yeah, definitely be able to keep that up to date. I've noticed that as my peers have tried to be a part of the professional world now, it makes me feel proud, made me have a good sense of myself. They actually do look at my LinkedIn like more than a couple of times to see what I'm up to, how it should look like, because I try to be professional. I actually put effort in that page because it's my presentation to people that I don't know and who could have an impact in where I work next. So you have to be professional.
And guys, my suggestion would be professional everywhere. If you have a Facebook account, please, guys, people can log in and check you out no matter where you're at. If you want to make some crazy dance video and post it on TikTok or YouTube and put your name attached to it, someone will find it someday. And so as you walk through all of this, especially to the population that we know we have in these robotics programs, please, guys, be very wise about the information you place on the internet, because everyone is always going to be looking, and they're looking for the context of your moral stance, your ethics,
exactly.
and anything else they can draw out of what you decide to place on the internet for others to see. Hector,
and
this is going to be your gold star. This is going to be the LinkedIn edition. This is a big one. This is a good thing for the club to know. What else, Hector?
I was going to say that on that Facebook matter, just be mindful that because we're in a pretty diverse country, you were raised with a certain set of principles that taken out of context by someone else can be considered as an insult. So that's something to be mindful as you put stuff out on the internet, on your Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat, on any social media. I don't have TikTok myself, but that's beyond like this conversation. But yeah, just be mindful of what you put out there. And regarding the Amazon opportunity, I ended up getting my what is it, the letter of opportunity, like the what is it called?
Job offer.
The job offer. Yeah, they sent me the job offer. I think I was actually taking another nap. Like I just woke up from that nap. They sent it like at 6 p.m. or something. So, and I was tired from my classes. Because it's quarantine and everything, we're always taking naps throughout the day. We're working at night at 3 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
So I opened it and it said, "Congratulations on your Amazon offer." And I'm like, wow. So I knew it was going to be the start of something good. I was very excited. I got the inside look at what a big company is, and it's Amazon has this energy of being a large, very large company, but they really feel like as if they have this philosophy that they call it's always day one. They have this mentality that you are going to be motivated as if you were in a startup, as if it was day one, as if like this company was starting still, like as if you still wanted to grow it as much as you can.
It was fresh, and you're still motivated, and you're still excited, and it's still day one, like you just walked in the door.
Exactly. So I think Jeff Bezos once said like, why is it always day one? And he like, you can look it up, but it's something like day two is like death stasis. It's bad. He put it very metaphorically, but it has a good meaning behind it. It's to stay motivated and have that energy. So regarding that offer, I accepted it. Even I at that moment I saw the quarantine was going to be over by June, July-ish. Little did I know we were going to still be here in my room. I accepted that this opportunity was going to be for in Seattle, in Redmond, in what like in Seattle area. I think it's what is it? I think it's Redmond, somewhere in Seattle. Uh, so I accepted it with hopes of actually going to the HQ at Amazon. But getting closer to the date, as I ended up, as I was ending my spring quarter at UCSD, I changed my start date at Amazon to be basic. I finished my last final at UCSD a Saturday, and I started working the following Monday because I wanted to start right away. On June 15th, I started. It was supposed to be a 12-week internship. They told me that I was going to work for this Project Kuiper to build satellites, and I was part of this team, of the RF team, specifically in a subsystem called the Telemetry Tracking and Control Subsystem, which is a subsystem that has a transceiver, a transmitter receiver that has to be on for the entire mission's life. So for 7 years ish or more, that our satellites are going to be in the space, they had to be on at all times. So we had to make sure they're robust, they're reliable, they work as intended. But I was like more not more on the digital functionality of it. I was more in the terminal hardware radio frequency aspect of it. So we were actually making it possible to convert myself these signals that are going to be transmitted from the base, the mission control, the control mission, or whoever is controlling it. Those digital signals that come out of a computer, translate them to a radio frequency, up convert them to an actual frequency that you can transmit. So like a higher frequency, some frequency band that Amazon was licensed by the FCC, and send it to space. So and based on this experience, I got a whole lot of exposure on how to select components reliable for the space environment, what considerations I need to take, what kind of radiation testing I need to be doing to my components, what kind of other atmospheric, what kind of other condition I should be taking in the space environment in vacuum that you actually don't take into account here when you make circuits. I actually didn't know this, but apparently it's very basic. So in school, they never tell you that, you know what a resistor is, Mr. Pisa, right? A resistor, like an actual resistor in physics.
Yeah.
Did you know that there are 0 ohm resistors, 0 ohm, no resistance resistors? I didn't know. The first day, like they showed me a schematic, and I'm like, what the hell is a 0 ohm resistor doing here? Like that doesn't exist. They never taught me this at school, right? So I was amazed of the things that there are in industry that they don't tell you in school. There are sizes of these resistors. Like there are different dimensions. There are different ratings that you have to be looking at. So through this experience, I helped select components. I looked at data sheets to make sure they were reliable. I ran simulations to make sure they worked as expected. I captured this schematic that this engineer I worked with helped me design. I helped him design. Um, Obviously, I cannot disclose the specific schematic and stuff, but it was pretty interesting to be under an NDA. First time I've been under a non-disclosure agreement because of this sensitive information. Like I could even be held accountable if I went to Mexico with my computer and I had like the information open. So I was pretty scared sometimes. But overall, a good experience because I got to see from design all the way to manufacturing. I actually extended my internship. It was supposed to be 12 weeks. I ended up doing like 16 weeks, like 4 months, because of the job I did there, and I didn't start school till October 2nd, October 1st.
Gotcha.
My internship was supposed to end September 4th. So I extended it all the way because I really wanted to see the entire manufacturing process, since the conception of the actual design, how dynamically it changed with the input of cross-functional teams. Our design was changing, um, and then I was in charge of actually capturing the schematic into this. Uh, it's called Mentor Graphics, uh, to have it run for errors, to make sure it was reliable. And then after that, I led the trend, like the 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 PCB, the printed circuit board process, to make it actually a physical circuit with the layout engineers. We worked with a third party, so I was like the middleman between the third party and our company. So
So
I actually. Mhm,
Oh, it sounds like there was a lot of checks and balances along the way that
mhm.
allowed you to make sure that variables that you were not aware of, that you had never even been like kind of thinking about, were plugged into your understanding in this group dynamic. The diversity of the ages of the individuals in this group, I'm imagining, are all age ranges, all experiences, multi dynamic, and they're coming in. All righty. So Hector, our director's given us a little bit of information here about trying to see if we can move into the Q&A portion so our audience can ask some of those questions. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see if Sophia is going to pop on in here and give us a question from the audience. Sophia?
One of our audience members wants to ask you if you actually lived on or off campus and why. And if you did live on campus, what was your opinion of the dorms?
At UCSD, I actually went to see the dorms, but because of the cost, it's basically another cost of attendance. It's basically you're paying double the tuition if you're just paying normally as any other regular kid that does not have CalVet or any other aid. You're basically paying two costs of attendance to live on campus. So I thought, because like as I mentioned before, my dad had me do a budget. I thought it was more financially viable to just work, get a car, and commute. And especially because I was going to be partaking my time in jobs. So especially because of that, I've been commuting from Chula Vista, from my house to UCSD every day since day zero in 2017. So it's been, I've had my ups and downs. I actually was going one time um, out of UCSD to my job, and I had a terrible car accident in the going down the 805 by the 805 and the 8. I was going out on the 8, and I don't know what happened. I wasn't distracted. My car got totaled. True story. Short story. My car got totaled. I was taken to the hospital. Nothing happened to me, but it's an experience that you should be. I mean, things that can happen in in the line of duty.
In the line of
So
duty. Well,
yeah,
and then there's this really weird situation that just as you're graduating, they're completing a trolley line that goes all the way from your house in South Bay to the school campus, and so
exactly. I can see the construction every day that
yeah.
I mean, every day that I went to UCSD.
So let's see if Sophia jumps back in and has another question for us. And so a lot of that, guys, was the answer was Hector was checking his monetary issues and making sure that housing on campus didn't really affect his ability to go to school. Sophia, you got to unmute, hon.
Sorry. Paige, one of our VEX referees, knows that because many times, due to independent research, that usually leads to further education, such as master's degree or a PhD. And she wants to ask, have you ever considered, or are you going to pursue a further education?
So I thank you, Paige, for I think is it Paige, like the referee that it has. Oh, I know Paige. Hi, Paige.
You know, Paige.
Thank you for tuning in. I have more. It's more. I think in from my perspective, the field that I'm on in electrical engineering, I thought that since the beginning, pursuing I had this mindset even before I started research. This students that actually get PhDs in engineering are more focused on doing academia or being a lab position at some company. So I don't want to pursue that level of education because I ultimately want to either get a job, get a experience at a company, or start something right out of school, like a company of my own or something in like innovate something. So my mindset was always to go and get a master's because at UCSD, this specialization I want to pursue, they teach you all the basics in undergrad, but the actual radio frequency integrated circuit that you would be able to make an iPhone chip, an iPhone transceiver, like a telephone transceiver. You learn it in grad school, and that's something I wanted to pursue since the beginning. So that's why I decided to apply for this joint BS-MS program, and that's what I'm jumping into January to my MS portion of the degree.
Awesome. Sophia, another question?
Yes, our final question is from a Mustang Robotics member, and they would like to ask, what has been your favorite project you have worked on since like college to now?
So I'm gonna give two projects. So I'm gonna give one academic and one that I actually had the professional experience. So academically, I think at least at UCSD, I'm pretty sure a lot of engineering universities do this. So we have a hands-on portion of our classes. We have lab portions. So we're trying to see what all this theory actually yields in a lab. So I think the coolest thing I have built, even though I didn't understand it at the time, and actually we won this tournament. It was my first quarter at UCSD. We built this. It was a car that had light sensors, and it was a um, line tracker car robot that used diodes or photoresistors to measure the sensitivity of light that was reflected from a line and black white surfaces that we have to program. We have to 3D print the chassis and make it. And we actually won the drag race that they called. And if you give me 1 second, I can show you.
He's gonna go get it. And I know
I have two things. They give us this because they want to endorse 3D printing.
Yeah.
Give me this little trophy, the drag race, and just for good old time's sake, I have this still. So
what does that one say? An excellence award. Oh, exactly. That's one of the missing trophies. Look at him. He's
missing.
We have shelves upon shelves. We just know where that one lives now.
Exactly.
Okay, Hector. So what about portion of the question, which was any project, something more? I'm imagining these satellite things or something like that.
Yes. So definitely. I mean, again, never in a million years I thought that at my 21 years old, I was going to be working on something that was going to be deployed to space. Even though as a kid I was interested in space and everything, as every good kid, I wanted to be an astronaut or something like that. Now, it really blew my mind to know that something I was doing, even though it's prototypes, something that I worked on is actually going to be deployed to space and actually provide a service for millions, billions of customers for Amazon. So I just did want to mention that that this research opportunity that I had for Amazon is pretty. It's like pretty eye-opening for me in the terms of what kind of path I want to pursue. Definitely, the aerospace industry is something that I'm going to keep in mind after this opportunity. And I just have one recommendation. Even though I had to do this over virtually, I had this setup that they sent me. I try to bond as much as I could with other interns. I actually participated in this hackathon we had for Alexa. Like actually I have an Alexa that got activated because, yeah. So I try to bond with people. Every time I met with my mentor and my manager, I tried to get the perspective that they had in the industry prior to Amazon. Any pointers that they might have with me, I try to embrace them. And I was always open with my performance and how I could improve to just provide a seemingly a pretty specific relationship with Amazon. Ultimately, this experience that lasted 4 months for me yielded in a return offer. So I actually sent the signed documentation to come back at Amazon next summer. And I think this would be the case that I actually go to Seattle and HQ and actually take hands-on experience on these satellites. So I'm pretty excited about that.
One more level up.
Exactly.
Hector, this has been an amazing conversation. I thank you for coming originally for what we thought would be an hour, and now 2 hours in, and all the information you've given us. We will be better once we leave this meeting as Mustang Robotics, as robotics students, or for anyone else out there who's watching this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending today. We thank Hector for his time, and everyone, please be safe out there. Wear your masks. Let's get through this COVID stuff so we can get our robots back and start to play in the classroom again. Thank you for attending, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
People try, it's the first thing they do. Only different, it happens to you. Only makes sense when speaking to you, but it got away. My goal